Welcome to the Be Wise podcast. I'm your host, Chris Wright, where we discuss politics, news, entertainment, and social media. So today, what we're going to talk about is Black Republicans. And I find that it's a very, very controversial and heated topic right now. We're going to talk about the pushback, the hatred and vitriol from the Black community towards Black Republicans. And we're also going to talk about why a lot of Black people are starting to vote for the Republican Party and support Donald Trump. Before I get to that, though, I did a video this week about Florida Representative Congressman Byron Donalds. And in that video, I kept calling him Byron Daniels. So Mr. Daniels or Mr. Donalds, I'm sorry that I was doing that. The video is already made. It's out there on YouTube in the air. So I thought I needed to do a mea culpa because your name is everything. And if you butcher someone's name or say it incorrectly or give them the wrong name even, I think you should do a public apology. Anyway, so Black Republicans, it's been a very heated topic. And Garrison Hayes of Mother Jones, which is a syndicated YouTuber, podcaster, news outlet, they do a lot of liberal and progressive news. They primarily support and vote for, or I should say, Democratic candidates, very liberal, very progressive, and very woke. Please don't take that in the wrong kind of connotation. Anyway, Garrison Hayes did this report and video on Black Republicans and the backlash they face in the Black community and why he feels that it will never be a strong party, specifically Black Republicans. Let's take a quick look at what he has to say, and we'll go from there.
Black Republicans specifically are some of the most disliked and unpopular political figures within the Black community for a reason.
I'm pissed.
Of the 4 Black Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives, zero represent majority Black districts.
I am royally pissed.
In fact, they all represent majority white districts, something they seem to be very proud of.
South Carolina is majority white, correct?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
My district is majority white district. Your Utah is majority white district, correct? Michigan, Florida, is your district majority white district? Well, how do we get here?
Like, a lot of white people had to vote for it.
Yeah, so and that's kind of what's going on with that. And President Barack Obama did a speech the other day. He was urging Black men specifically to make sure they vote Democrat. And also Magic Johnson was on the Kamala Harris campaign trail. He was urging Black men to vote Democrat. And quite frankly, Black men don't like being told what to do. All you're really going to do is turn them away from the party. So, it's kind of a conundrum for the Democratic Party where they know they usually get 80 to 90% of the Black vote. And now they see they're losing some of that base, and they're urging them to come back home, so to speak. I want to let you hear what I think Nina Turner, she used to be on the Bernie Sanders campaign. Here's what she had to say.
But this other issue I want to bring up is a problem too. Why are Black men being lectured to? Why are Black men being belittled in ways that no other voting group? Now, a lot of love for former President Obama, but for him to single out Black men is wrong. And some of the Black men that I have talked to have their reasons why they want to vote a different way. And even if some of us may not like that, we have to respect it. So unless President Barack Obama is going to go out and lecture every other group of men from other identity groups, my message for Democrats is don't bring it here to Black men who, by and large, don't vote much differently from Black women. And as a politician, we should be trying to get all voters to vote. And hopefully there are a few good men out there who do care about the stripping away of some of women's bodily autonomy. But this is wrong for President Obama. It is a wrong course for the Harris-Walz campaign to.
Yeah, I mean, so basically she said what I just said, that you don't want to be telling Black people, specifically Black men, how they should be voting. It's just not a good strategy. It's something that the Democratic Party should rethink, something that Kamala Harris and Walz need to rethink. And I think that that could hurt them in the long run. So Garrison Hayes was out in the streets. He was talking to Black Republicans because he went to the RNC, Republican National Convention, and he was looking for MAGA hats, red MAGA hats on black faces. And he found some, he got a chance to talk to some. A lot of the speakers that night were black, or throughout the convention were black. And Garrison Hayes tracked them down and decided he was going to interview them and basically tell them what was wrong with black Republicans and why it's problematic. So this is the first gentleman. He's a rapper, musician, entertainer. His name is Topher.
That's one reason why I'm pro-Trump and I'm a conservative, is because I truly believe in the individualistic approach.
You'll see that he has his MAGA hat on, and he's explaining to Garrison why he's pro-Trump. So take a listen.
And that's one reason why I'm pro-Trump and I'm a conservative, is because I truly believe in the individualistic approach to the problems that we see within the black community or in America as a whole. And you can think about it, Black Wall Street, Harlem Renaissance, all that time, we was doing great. But when the policies came in and started destroying the black community slowly and slowly. Matter of fact, it was supposed to get rid of poverty, or at least lessen it, but we have more poverty now than we had back then.
I think you'll notice.
Yeah, so that's kind of, it's about economics for a lot of black men. It's about self-reliance, being able to go out there and do for self, not being dependent on government. A lot of black conservatives are fiscally responsible and fiscally conservative, and they just don't want any more of the Democrat promises of what they're going to do for the community from an economic standpoint. So that was a very interesting take. And I mean, what's, I'd love to hear in the comments what you thought about Topher's take, and take another look at something else he had to say.
Policies came in and started destroying the black community slowly and slowly. Matter of fact, it was supposed to get rid of poverty, or at least lessen it, but we have more poverty now than we had back then.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's historically correct. So a lot of times when you start looking at 1950s, 1940s, Jim Crow era, and we're going to talk about the Jim Crow era as well, but the Jim Crow era, there was a lot of black businesses, black-owned businesses, strong black economies. There's a book called Black Gotham. I think you should check it out. It's talking about the wealth and strength and power, not only economic power, but political power of the black community. This book is primarily taking place in New York City, but Brooklyn was a stronghold for black economics. And then, of course, we know there was Black Wall Street, Tulsa, there was places in Arkansas, places like that. And what he's saying is we had a lot of economic clout and capital. And ever since we put a lot of the policies in place since the Civil Rights Act, and there was more integration, he said that we've lost that zest, that encouragement, that eagerness to go out and do for self. And he has a point. Now, he's not saying that Jim Crow era or segregation was good for black people overall, because there was a lot of racism, bigotry, discrimination. There wasn't things like fair housing. They did not police redlining. None of that stuff was in place. So with Fair Housing, Civil Rights Act, things like that, affirmative action, it did help black people to, a strong degree. He was saying how it impacted us economically. And that's something good to take note of. So shout out to that. So let's take a look at this next one. So I talked about Jim Crow, and I want to let you see what Byron Donalds, I'm not going to butcher his name, had to say. He was talking about the black family during the Jim Crow era. And man, he took some heat from this.
During Jim Crow, the black family was together.
Yeah, that's right.
During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people always have been conservative minded, but more black people voted conservatively.
So yeah, he took a lot of heat because he kept mentioning Jim Crow, and man, Joy Reid ate him up. There was so many YouTube videos about him mentioning Jim Crow, and it almost was like, I guess, was like he was saying that Jim Crow was a better era for black people. That's not what he was saying. He was just talking about the family, the economics, more fathers being in the household, and I guess it was just more unity within the family. That's what he meant. He went on to explain himself on other various shows, but for a political career, he's taken some heat because of that take. All right, next we're going to look at
Now, you mentioned Black Wall Street, brother, and I want
Topher.
to be very real with you. Yeah. Black Wall Street was Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Greenwood District, where black people built their own community, had their own self-sustained community, beautiful economy, making it for themselves, and white people destroyed it. Yeah. It wasn't policy. It was white people.
Well, white people, it was.
No. Let's be very clear. It was white people.
No.
No.
It was those white people.
It was white people in that community. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And and let me just say this: Elaine, Arkansas. Rosewood in Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, the Sweet Auburn District, North Nashville and Nashville, Tennessee. Each one of these communities were booming black economies where white people, not in the same place, but it was the same group of people every time, destroyed those communities. So you can't say it's policy when black people do what they need to do and build for themselves and white people destroy it. Yeah. So why is it that you would frame it as a policy thing?
I didn't frame it as a policy thing.
We can rewind it.
You said it was white people.
You mentioned.
I said it wasn't white people. It was those white people. And the reason why I'm saying that is because now we're trying to categorize all white people as evil.
No.
And what I'm trying to say is back then, because a lot of people don't know this, I'm gonna put this on record. Black Wall Street rebuilt themselves after that. 4 years after that, Black Wall Street rebuilt everything they had, and they prospered for the next 40 years until policy came in and destroyed it because they decided to build a freeway over their town, and that destroyed. So what I'm saying is, if we look at policy and the cultural essence of most things, right? It's not just policy, it's culture.
I was trying to draw a distinction.
So let's talk about it. So there's policies that destroyed black economics, and there was white people, racist, that destroyed black economics. It was a combination of both. So yes, there was the Tulsa massacre, and that not only happened in Tulsa. That's just the most popular one, but it happened in black business sectors throughout the United States. So he's right. Garrison's right about that. What he did not want to accept or embrace was the fact that policies also affected black economics, because now blacks wanted to integrate their businesses. They no longer wanted to depend on just black consumers and black business, right? They also wanted to, I guess, migrate outside of their communities and create businesses that whites and other Americans could also partake in. And then the government got involved and say, okay, now you're moving your business outside of your community. We want to regulate that. We want to add policies to that. We want to add some type of government structure to that. And these are the policies that Topher is saying that basically help destroy black economics. And he's got a point. But there is a difference. There were racist whites. There was Ku Klux Klan. There was all types of white organization that did not want black communities or to have strong, powerful, wealthy, and lucrative business sectors. So, I just think that both of them had a point, and I think it was something that we need to take a look at. So, but again, Black Republicans, they want more of that. And they think that by being a Republican, policies will be put in place by Republicans over Democrats that would strengthen and empower Black economics and Black businesses. We'll see. Now, the Democrats also, every time they're on the campaign trail, they're always talking about how we're going to give more money to Black business owners and small businesses to grow. And I don't know if that's actually ever come into fruition. I know in New York State, there's organizations and parts of there's departments that help minority businesses, women businesses, and things like that. And most of those are progressive and Democrat programs. But by and large, I do think Republican politics and policies help all Americans grow business. And by virtue of that, Black businesses grow as well. All right, let's look at Pastor Sewell. He spoke at the Democratic National Convention. And Let's see what his reasonings are.
Given Trump's well-documented history of saying and doing racist things, I wanted to know how these black people could be drawn into Trump's political orbit. So I talked to Pastor Lorenzo Sewell.
Yeah, so anyone that wants to come to church, they're able to come. So when President Trump called, I thought about it like you calling me and say, hey, Pastor, I want to invite a friend to church who has 34 felonies. Hey, Pastor, I want to invite a friend to church who is a womanizer. Hey, Pastor, I want to invite a friend to church who could be a racist.
He's the lead pastor at a black church in Detroit that Trump visited earlier this year. And he was also a featured speaker at the RNC.
To all my friends back in Detroit who are Democrats, I want to ask you just one simple question. You can't deny the power of God on this man's life. You can't deny that God protected him. Could it be that Jesus Christ preserved him for such a time as this? Could it be?
Yeah, so you see, he was very he's a really good orator, great speaker, but he welcomed Donald Trump into his church, which is an all black, not primarily black, an all black church in the inner city of Detroit, and he allowed Donald Trump to speak with them. Now, here's the thing: a lot of people will push back on that, but how many black churches continuously allow black Democrats, mayors, councilmen, ombudsmen to come into the church and speak to the people and make promises, a lot of times unfulfilled promises to the community in the church? A lot of pastors are into politics. A lot of pastors, commingle with black politicians. And I think that a lot of us believe that's just the status quo and that's how it should always be. But Pastor Sewell kind of went out of his way to say, yeah, Donald Trump called me and said, hey, I saw your congregation. I'd love to come and speak with them. Why would you turn that down? I don't think you should turn that down. Here's more Pastor Sewell.
Why should black people support the Republican ticket and Donald Trump specifically?
That's a good question. What I would say to any black person is this, specifically about the Republican platform. I would say, look, do your research, right? I would say look back to 170 years ago in this state where a group of patriots stood up and they started that grand old party to stop the expansion of slavery. If a black person said, well, Pastor, Donald Trump is racist, the Republican Party is racist, well, let's play that theme out throughout history. Let's look at who was the party of slavery, who was the party of Jim Crow, right? Who's the party of the slave codes? Well, those are Democrats. Let's have that conversation. And when you look at when the Senate was integrated, those were black Republicans. When we look at Frederick Douglass, black Republican. So that's on the political side, why I believe that a black American should be willing to look at the Republican platform. In terms of my political convictions as a pastor, my conviction in my heart.
So I think he's being a little disingenuous. He's not telling the whole story. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party has changed quite a bit over history. Yes, it was the Republican Party who freed the slaves. Yes, there was a lot of Republican black people in Congress, but a lot of those black people also fought for a lot of actions that helped black people progress in America. And there was also something called Dixiecrats. And the reason they were called Dixiecrats for a reason, because Democrats were very racist at the time. A lot of Ku Klux Klansmen voted Democrat back in the day. And the reason the Dixiecrats basically were Southern Democrats who were helping Republicans and black Republicans with progress with the black community. So that has kind of shifted. Then there's Lyndon B. Johnson, who came out with the Civil Rights Act in 1964. And then from that point on, the Democratic Party kind of shifted towards getting more black votes. There's a quote out there, or there's a rumor out there, or rhetoric out there that Lyndon B. Johnson said something about we'll get the black vote for the next 20 years because we're going to give them things. And we're going to give them things. They were placed in housing projects. More money went into welfare, food stamps, all types of things, family planning with abortions and things like that. So all of that was the Lyndon B. Johnson plan, or came during his term. And Democrats have just bought that, the whole parcel. So yeah, I thought he was being a little bit disingenuous with that take, but that was the history that he was talking about, Frederick Douglass and all of those other Republicans from the past 1800s, early 1900s, et cetera. But I mean, he had a point. They were Republican. And I don't know why today there can't be more blacks in the Republican Party and do the same type of work for the black community, just with a different method. I don't know. Your thoughts on that? Please put them in the comments. He also is going to talk about the problem of being a black Republican and the pushback and hatred and vitriol that you get from the black community.
You've mentioned Frederick Douglass and others from the 1800s, early 1900s. In those times, black Republicans were elected by black people.
Sure.
Today, black Republicans, they're elected in majority white districts.
Agreed.
Why is it difficult, maybe even some would say impossible for a black Republican to be elected in a black?
That's a good question. You know what? I'm wrestling with that. I think the biggest problem is the Republican Party, in my opinion, they have, I believe, drifted from their roots in terms of black people having authority within that party. I don't believe the Republican Party has learned well how to support financially those who are black Republicans that want to come out the closet. I equate it to being gay back in the 50s or 60s, right? Or even 70s. You didn't come out the closet then, like the movie Philadelphia, right? Because you could be ostracized. So it is with being a black conservative. We have been, the Lord has blessed our church. He's been very kind to us to really serve our community. However, me just having President Trump at our church, if I could play the voicemail, sir, these are the ones I haven't had time to delete. If I could send you the emails where it's like, really? I mean, people that I thought loved me, they're like calling me everything but a child of God. I'm like, hold on for a second. Can we have a conversation? Why are you like,
How has that made you feel?
I was a drug dealer. I was a street pharmacist, right? Former. So the people that you love are hurts. I have to be frank with you, But other people that don't know you, don't understand your motives, I get it. When tensions are high, motives are questions. And tensions have been high in our country as it pertains to politics. So people question my motives. I understand that. But for the people that love you, it hurts. It really does. And that's the reason why black people won't come out the closet.
A relatively small percentage of black people will vote for Trump this
I don't know if you guys caught that. There was no background soundtrack throughout this video. And as soon as the pastor started talking about the hatred and vitriol and sadness that he gets from the black community, it was almost like saying, we're going to play a little tiny violin for you. Stop whining and crying. I caught that. I don't know if that was by design or if that was an accident. I don't know if someone was practicing in the church with music, but I just thought it was funny. I thought Mother Jones added that piece of music because they're like, wah, we'll play a little violin for you, cry your big tears or whatever. So I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's what I took from that. The pastor went on to talk about, let's talk about that last clip, the hatred and the vitriol from the black community. Yes, black conservatives, black Republicans do get a lot of hatred from the black community. I post conservative views on on TikTok a lot. Even on these videos here, I know that I'm going to get some progressive watchers and they're not going to like the takes that I have. And that's fine. But the black community, I get comments like Uncle Tom, Coon, you just trying to make white people feel comfortable. Look at you caping for the white man, this, that, and the other. And we just get it. I get sad faces or shake my head emojis because they're feeling like, you ain't black no more. And you're basically no longer invited to the cookout. So yeah, we get that. And I can imagine on a national stage, some might even get death threats once you become more popular, when you start getting millions of followers and you're on platforms like this. If you're a Jason Whitlock or Candace Owens or an Officer Tatum and you have 3-4 million followers on here, yeah, you probably get all types of threats and things like that. So he's right. I can imagine his phone blowing up. People probably left his church congregation. There's in Chicago, there's a pastor called the Rooftop Pastor, and he's a Trump supporter, Republican, Black Republican, and he kept it in the closet for a long time. He did not tell people, and he had a large congregation, 5,000 people in Chicago. And then as soon as he came out and supported the local Chicago candidate for the Republican Party, he lost half his congregation. He was getting death threats. People no longer wanted to talk to him. He was no longer allowed in city council meetings. All that kind of stuff went on. And it's just sad. So, yeah, we do face it. And you don't have to play a violin for me. I know what it is. And you know what it is, though? We really get thick skin. We get thick skin. We get used to it. All over YouTube, I follow Black conservatives, and you can't bully us anymore. You just can't tell us where we're wrong. So um, keep doing it. But I know personally, I love and care about the Black community. I only want what's best for them. And sometimes I just don't think progressive, woke, Democrat policies are good for the Black community. It doesn't strengthen us. We've been the same. Our ghettos, our communities have been the same for decades, and it hasn't changed. Our education hasn't changed. Our economy hasn't changed. We have the lowest home ownership percentages in America. We also have the highest default with foreclosures and bank loans because we don't have financial literacy. Democrat policies I believe, want you to stay poor so they can keep pouring federal dollars into the community and you will keep voting for them. Kamala Harris just said she's going to give $25,000 um, down payment assistance to first-time home buyers, first-generation home buyers. Who do you think most of those applicants are going to be? There's going to be a child tax credit. Who do you think that's going to go to? So I think Republicans and conservatives, we want you to be fiscally responsible, financially literate, so you can make better decisions for yourself and you don't have to worry about taking money from the government. So that's my take on that. And now Pastor Sewell is going to talk about a little bit about DEI.
Conservatives are leading the charge to remove protections for voting rights, protections for maternal mortality, interventions in California, affirmative action, diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are all issues that pertain directly to the people that I know that you serve in your community. Why should they support the party behind the hindrance, the advancement of the very things that I know you stand for?
Sure. Black people that I know, that I represent, that I've had these conversations with, they don't want to be put in a position because they're Black. There's not one Black person I know that will say to me, Lorenzo, I deserve this position because I'm Black.
But I want to. You know that that's not what DEI is. DEI is about fair hiring practices, opening up opportunity, like creating pathways, like.
But you're smart. You're an intelligent man, and those that would say this, I believe they're very intelligent. It costs more money not to hire the person who's the best than to be racist. It actually costs more money. So if you're the best at what you do, right? And let's just say I'm a racist. So let's just say that, let's play that out, right? And let's just say, hey, there are 20 white guys that are not as competent as you, but I'm not gonna pick you because you're Black. It's gonna cost me more money.
They don't even know that this qualified person exists, right?
Sure, I hear you.
The pathways are the problem. And a lot of what diversity, equity, and inclusion is doing is creating those and helping to clarify those pathways. And so framing it as an unqualified person getting the job when we know, you and I both know, that there are plenty of qualified Black people or Latino people or women who don't end up with jobs.
100%. And I agree with you. I do think relationships.
So I'm with the pastor on this one. All of these programs have been created since the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Affirmative action, fair housing, you name it. There's just program after program after program that was created, initiated and pushed forward, and it grew and grew and grew. I mean, Ben Carson was head of HUD, the Housing Urban Development, and these programs balloon so large that you don't even realize the billions of dollars that are sinking into it, all for the face of equity and diversity. So if we had all of those initiatives and DEI comes along in 2020, after the George Floyd movement, what what's the purpose? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. You mean to tell me that after all those programs, corporations still didn't have inclusion? Um, Fair housing was created to create fair housing, not only fair housing, but also housing urban development. HUD is what it's called. All of these programs created so Black people could buy houses wherever they want, right? Get jobs wherever they want. They couldn't discriminate. Fair lending practices were put into place. You mean to tell me all these programs were created from the 1964 time up to 2020 and we still needed DEI initiatives? I think what happened was the DEI initiatives basically tilted the scales more in favor of the liberal and progressive voter. You know, I think the Civil Rights Act was supposed to balance it. And I think that the DEI movement was like saying, all right, now let's tilt the scale all the way over to the liberals. And basically, uh, job creators, corporations, they were getting the pants beat off them because these HR companies, HR departments, SHRM, if you've heard of SHRM, all these groups came out and said to them, you got to do more. You got to do more. You need, remember the Rooney rule in the NFL? You need to interview Black candidates. The NBA, you need to interview Black candidates. Corporations, same thing. Oh, you're only 2% Black leadership and management and the executive positions. So it was more, and then it became not only Black people, but Hispanics, LGBTQIA plus. It was all in an effort to tilt the scales. And what that would do is increase votes. It's all political, baby. It's all political. So yeah, I personally don't think you need DEI. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. So here's something that's interesting. There's something called a grift, okay, and a lot of there's a lot of uh, Democrats and particularly Black Democrats who say Black Republicans' sole goal and role is to um, be Republicans and rub shoulders with conservatives so they can get more power, more money, more influence. It's a grift. And I'm going to give you an idea. Here's what Garrison said.
I couldn't help but wonder if some of the folks I was talking to fit that description. So I asked Pastor Lorenzo whether or not he was a grifter.
In my reporting, I've spoken to Clay Kane, who wrote a book about grifters, how sometimes Black Republicans will align themselves with political power for their own personal advantage.
Sure.
What do you say to a person who says, hey, like, you're a talented, gifted person, but we didn't necessarily know who you were, but now you're speaking on one of the biggest platforms in the world tonight?
Quite frankly, I don't need another opportunity to speak. Has the Republican Party said, Lorenzo, we're going to write you a big check? No. If they did, it's just going to go right to the community anyway, right at the end of the day, because that's where my salary goes.
You've mentioned Frederick Douglass. And
So, yeah, here's a small-time pastor from Detroit, Michigan, gets a call from the Republican Party. Hey, Donald Trump would like to speak in your church. He invites him into the church. And next thing you know, he's speaking at the RNC. Now he's not locally acclaimed, but now he's nationally acclaimed. Black Republicans all over the country saying, I like that guy. Black, white Republicans, conservatives going, every time they need a Black guy, they can be like, call up Pastor Sewell. So this guy's probably traveling all over. But is that why? That's not why. When I think of grifters, also, I can also call Black Democrats, Black liberals grifters because they grift from the Black community. You can look at guys, and I'm not saying they are. I'm just going to use their names. But you can look at guys like Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson. What's the lawyer, Crump, the attorney Crump? Forgot his first name. Every time there's a large national case, Crump is the attorney, whether it's George Floyd or, whoever. Yeah, so I was going to name a couple of more names, but you get my point. But Jesse Jackson always showed up to the scene. Al Sharpton always showed up to the scene. They could be grifters. Black pastors all over the cities. They support Black politics and Democratic politics. And a lot of those guys are very powerful. They influence, city council, mayors, everybody, because they've grifted the Black community. So it can go in both ways. Let's look at what the author of the book, The Grift, says about grifting. Clay Kane is his name.
Well, first and foremost, I wrote this book because I care about this country, and I've been so saddened at the direction that it's going in under the Republican Party. It's really broke my heart. And when you think about the original Black Republicans, they were the first progressives. They were the ones that pushed Abraham Lincoln into emancipation. They were the ones that forced him into glory. After the Civil War, they are forming communities that will help Black folks and poor white folks. So I wanted to examine, how did Black Republicans go from Frederick Douglass to Clarence Thomas?
Yeah.
How did we get here? How did we get here? And so what I realize is now, the current version, they are grifters. And what I mean by that is somebody who is hustling and scheming, that will say anything and do anything to get access to power, even if it means demeaning your own community. And in many ways, they provide racial cover for the issues in the Republican Party. So this book is also about the downward spiral of racial politics in the GOP.
Yeah.
You
I don't like The View, but I just thought that was a good clip introducing Clay Kane. The book is called The Grift. It's about Black Republicans basically, and how Black Republicans basically, couch for the white man and the conservative party, Donald Trump, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I've seen all the name calling. I've seen people say that to me in comments and posts. I've seen our representatives like, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, all these politicians basically go through the same type of vitriol. And of course, now there's a book out, and on The View, actually, if you watch that episode, Whoopi Goldberg actually gave everybody in the audience a copy. So it's going to circulate well. It's going to be a New York Times bestseller. And of course, we're going to have to push back against this book. Let's see what else that he had to say about the grifting.
Meaning a grifter is somebody who it's a scheme. It's not just being an opportunist, right? Here is a blueprint, a strategy that I'm going to follow to get access to power, to say, maybe I can be a vice presidential pick. Maybe I can be on the Supreme Court. In what ways can I elevate myself? Even if it means hurting my own community.
Can I ask one follow-up question?
Sure.
So this didn't happen back in the day?
Yes. Well, it's interesting. The grift began long before Trump. That's why I wanted to write the book, right?
It happened when Lincoln was around.
Yeah, after the Civil War, there are some key figures, a guy named Isaiah Montgomery, for example, in Mississippi, where they were voting against other Black people to get ahead, and they were celebrated, they were rewarded. So, but it was rare back then. Yeah. And you might give some grace to somebody in the 19th century, but today, with some of the clowns on steroids that we see, they would make the original Black Republicans roll in their graves.
See, clowns call us. I get that too. I get the clown emoji. You get called clown, and that's that's just par for the course. I really don't see it much in the other direction. Yeah, conservatives might call liberals woke, but nothing like the names that come in the other direction. But it's okay. It's acceptable. People just think that Black conservatives can be talked about and trampled on. So in summary, we're going to let Garrison Hayes, since I used his video, get the last word, and then we'll be out. Basically, he said that the Republican Party is a racist party.
Make American politics inhospitable to racists. I'm all in on that platform. But the reality is that racists, or at least racism enablers, were present and accounted for at the RNC. They were given stage time, had exclusive access, and seemed central to the whole operation. And I'll tell you what did not feel central. Black people.
There you go. Black people do not feel central in the Republican Party. It's going to change. I cannot wait to see the percentage of Blacks that vote for Donald Trump this year. 2024. It's been as high as 18%, 17%. I think it may topple 20 this time, 20, 25%. If Donald Trump gets 25% of the Black vote, I think that the Republicans will win the election, plain and simple. So yeah, that's it for today. I just wanted to talk about that. I thought it was worthy and something to look into. And we will be doing more conversations on the BY podcast. I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.